Hi, I'm Ginny MacArthur. I'm a nutritionist, fitness coach, and life coach, have been for the last 25 years. And my passion is helping women, especially midlife, women going through that whole menopausal, perimenopausal, and then out the other side to the more mature woman like myself. My goal is to help us all live vibrant, happy, healthy lives. I was talking to a client yesterday, and her question was around how to avoid temptation. Temptation is a bugger, isn't it? And it makes it feel like you're having a fight with food, or you're having a fight with your body, or a fight with your body image. Sometimes it's helpful to clear out the cupboards and not have any temptation in the house. I get that. Because resisting temptation can feel like pushing a beach ball down in a swimming pool. You know, you push it down, push it down, push it down until you can't hold it down anymore. And then up it goes, and water goes everywhere, and you have a huge binge and eat out the cupboard. So resisting temptation isn't always the answer. The long term answer is to come to peace with your relationship, both with yourself and know that you don't have to be perfect, and your relationship with food. I was always in that fight, and frankly, it was exhausting. And I realize now that it was a fight that I was never, ever going to win. I was a serial dieter. I had a strong story. I told myself that I was an emotional eater, that I was addicted to food, that food was this little demon that I was constantly fighting. I felt like it controlled me, to be honest. Um, and I couldn't get away from it. So I understood completely what this client was asking me. I used to know the calorie count, or I still do know the calorie count and the macronutrient count of every single food known to womanhood. And that is a very old-fashioned standpoint, by the way. We now know that you can take two lots of foods with the same macros and the same calories and get two completely different outcomes, especially when it comes to wellness and weight loss. But that's a whole nother podcast. I think that what changed for me was when I stopped trying to be perfect, and I stopped thinking of food as good or bad, and I stopped thinking of food as the enemy. I stopped believing once I had one bad thing, I was useless, I was fat, I was ugly, I couldn't do this, I knew I was broken, so I might as well dot, 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 which meant one biscuit became a whole packet of biscuits. One crunchy bar became a binge of going back for a big family size, I don't know, bag of Maltesers and chippies, and going to another dairy because I was too embarrassed to go back to the same one to get another chocolate bar and another crunchy. And that thought in my head, oh, well, I might as well because this is the last time I'm going to do it. I'm useless anyway, but I'm going to do it. And then from tomorrow or from Monday, I'm going to be perfect. And I would have this thing where I'd go, from tomorrow, I'm only going to have protein shakes and until I'm 59 kilos, or I'm only going to drink soup. I'm not going to eat anything until I'm under 59 kilos. And actually, that's how I became bulimic when I was younger, but that is a whole nother story. But basically, I did this on repeat for many years, trying to be perfect. So I'd start the week on Monday. I'd have my, quarter of a cup of rolled oats, my salad for lunch, my salad for dinner. I'd do that for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday, because I wasn't feeding my body properly and I was in too much of a deficit, my brain would be screaming that I was in a famine. I would have one thing, maybe an extra protein bar, because I was hooked on them, or maybe an extra muesli bar or a handful of the kids' muesli. I'd have one thing and then it would set me off. It would, I thought, trigger me. And because I thought the food was the trigger, right? Oh, I can't have that because it triggers me. If I have one of those, I'll have the whole packet. I blamed the food rather than me. And so then, because I'd ruined my week, of course, I would then binge eat for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and start again on Monday, be good through to Wednesday. And that was how it went. It just went round and round and round in a circle. Um, and I think one of the biggest things was when I learned to stop naming food as good food and bad food. And at the beginning of my journey, because I lost 30 kilos and I've kept it off for decades now. And in the beginning of that journey, I planned a free meal once a week. Now, not a cheat day, notice, not a binge, a free meal, one free meal. And for that meal, I could plan whatever I wanted. And I quickly learned that if I was really craving a crunchy bar on Thursday, if I said to myself, look, if you have that, you know what will happen. You will end up having more and more and more. You're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be very disappointed with yourself in 20 minutes' time. Why don't we instead have that crunchy bar on Saturday night as part of your free meal? Then you have permission to eat that crunchy bar, savor it, and enjoy it and draw a line under it. Now, for me, this really worked. What I found was if I went off track on Thursday, I would overeat and binge. But if I had my one controlled chocolate bar or my half a dessert with Kenny or whatever it was that I planned, usually with some wine on a Saturday night, I could stop because I had permission to do it. I wasn't being naughty. There wasn't guilt. I didn't have to talk shit to myself. So that was quite a revelation going, oh yeah, I won't have it now. I'll wait until the weekend and really enjoy it. And I found not always, but most of the time, I could actually do that. I could plan to have a chocolate bar or two and a bottle of wine over the weekend and thoroughly enjoy it with no guilt attached. I still do that. So I still do that now. That's part of my maintenance to plan those treats into the weekend and thoroughly enjoy them. But I still eat from Monday to Friday. I eat pretty much how I ate when I was losing the weight. Well, I do eat exactly the same as I ate with a few changes because I've gone plant-based and I realize that I need some more of some things as I've got older. Um, but it really hasn't changed very much at all. But I just have that freedom at the weekends. So that was, I guess, the other realization is that I'm never on a diet. I started to believe, rather than be on a diet, I started to believe that I was eating for my health and well-being and longevity, right? And a nice side effect of doing that well was that I lost weight. And that the number on the scales didn't mean that I was going to give up or I was going to starve myself. That was just a byproduct of how I was eating. And understanding that one bad meal doesn't undo all the good that I've done, you know? And when I get to my forever weight, this was my realization back then. When I get to my forever weight, I'm going to have to keep eating like I am now. So this isn't, I'm dieting until I hit a weight and then I can do whatever I want. This is the rest of my life. So it has to be sustainable, has to be worked around foods that I love and that I enjoy. And it has to have room in there to have some treats. Otherwise, it just isn't. It isn't sustainable. And when I hit my goal weight, why would I want to go back to eating how I was before? Because how I was before was bloated and living in a body full of inflammation and feeling foggy brained and like shit. So it's not to do with hitting a certain weight and then being able to go back to do what I was doing before. This is it. This is how I am going to eat forever. Maintaining this is going to be the same as losing it. I just might have a little bit more leeway in the weekend. That is all. So once that realization was there, this is the rest of my life. This is rinse and repeat. It isn't all or nothing. It meant that I could aim to eat foods that I knew filled me up and nourished my body and made me feel good 80 to 85% of the time, and have that window. And for me, I put it in my weekend, it was a Saturday night. I had that window at the weekend of 15 to 20% of celebrating life with food and or alcohol, whatever the thing was. Now with that mindset, I no longer feel like a junkie hanging out for my next fix, because that's what I felt like. When I was denying stuff all of the time, of course, I was constantly living in temptation and restriction. I don't feel like that anymore. I'm not waiting for that next fix of something super sweet. I feel like someone who is in control of my food, and I eat on purpose. And eating on purpose means that I plan my chocolate and those sweet treats and cheeses and things that I love. They are still in there. But I do know what it feels like to be in that awful kind of whirlwind of the food being in control, and you telling yourself that you can never do it, that you're hopeless, blah, 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 blah. So in our 12-week programs, we talk about mindset a lot, because I can write you a perfect food plan, but if your brain, your head isn't on side and in the right place, you're not going to be able to stick to it. So we talk about the inner Labrador. And the inner Labrador, how a Labrador is always hungry and always eats everything, including things it shouldn't eat that it finds in the bin or whatever. So I liken our primitive brain to a Labrador. So our primitive brain, it's about 2 million years old, and its job is to keep us overweight, right? Its job is to eat as much food as it can find to see us through the next famine, which could be just around the corner. It doesn't know that the society we're living in right now, there isn't a famine just around the corner. So when you undereat, like I was for 3 or 4 days in a row, of course the primitive brain is going to jump in and tell you, just have one, just a little bit. You deserve it, etc., etc., etc. So once you're aware of that and you know about your inner Labrador, you can start to train it. You can tell it to get in behind and sit in the corner. You can even put it in its kennel sometimes. So that's one thing. Another training that we have is called staying on the train. And that is about the process, the journey. Getting to your destination is not perfection. In any train journey, unless you're on the express, and the express is not always good for weight loss, I'll tell you, that you are going to stop on the way. And sometimes inadvertently, you might get off the train. But if you get off the train, it does not mean you failed. So if you eat, believe it or not, if you eat half a packet of biscuits or a packet of biscuits or a block of cheese, or like I used to, 5 protein bars, it doesn't mean you've stuffed up your whole week. It doesn't mean that you're useless. It just means you're a female human being. So cut yourself some slack and get back on the train, either before it leaves the station or get back on the very next train, because your destination of optimal health at a happy, healthy weight is still the same. It has not changed because you messed up once. It hasn't. I promise you, I promise you. So, one bad food, and I would encourage you to stop calling things good and bad, but one thing off plan has not messed you up. We used to say in the program, you haven't fucked up till you give up. You get back on the train. You're still going on that journey to optimal health. You just had a packet of biscuits. Who cares? Doesn't really matter. Take the emotion out of it. It's just food. It's not good or bad. It doesn't mean you're useless. It's just food. The other training we have, which is my favorite, is Sid the Bouncer. And Sid the Bouncer, I in my Sid is he's about 6'6". He is Samoan dude. He's beautiful. And he is the bouncer of my brain. So he is like my brain is the nightclub, he is the bouncer. He doesn't let shitty thoughts into my head, and he doesn't let those thoughts in that say, oh, you deserve it, just have one won't hurt, blah, 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 blah. When those thoughts come in, he stops them. So Sid is my best friend, and I use him still. I use him still every day. So you probably think I'm a mad woman because I'm talking about Labradors and trains and Samoan bouncers. But honestly, those things help me so much on my journey, and they have helped many, many, many of my clients too. So I guess we're all going to be tempted. Sometimes we will give into temptation, but that does not mean that you've failed, especially in the world that we live in right now. You know, it's not easy. We're in an obesogenic society. You know, just go into the supermarket and look at the stuff that isn't even really food. Of course, it doesn't fill you up. Of course, it doesn't nourish you. It doesn't nourish your soul. It doesn't nourish you. It doesn't satisfy you. Of course, you're left wanting. And very often the temptation is for the very stuff that won't help us. But you don't have to be perfect to get to the destination. We just have to keep trying. And, you know, just because you go wrong sometimes and you give in to temptation, it does not mean that you've messed up. It doesn't mean you're useless. It just means you're a female human being. Just get straight back on the train. You're still heading for your destination of optimal health. If any of this resonates with you, we go into all of this and I coach you through all of this in a lot more detail in my programs. I'll put the links below. In the meantime, we are just a tribe. Like Outlook, we're like a tribe. So we have a 12-week program that starts you off. We have a membership if you want to stay with us. Our goal is to get away from the dieting mentality, to honor our bodies with good food, healthy choices. We don't believe in counting calories. We don't believe in any of that crap, actually. We just believe in good, nourishing food, looking after our bodies, looking after our brains, looking after our microbiome, which is responsible for all of the above. And we just want a way of eating that will support our bodies and allow us to live full and vibrant lives with a little bit of badassery as we age. I'll put the links below of how you can work with me and look forward to chatting to you again next week.